Okay, hello and welcome back to Safety Sunday. And today we're going to be talking about overtaking and filtering. It may overrun, we don't know, but hopefully not too long. I would like to try and keep them into an hour if I can. Now, if you just joined us on YouTube and you want to ask us some questions, then feel free to follow the link on the bottom left which says get involved. That will take you to Google Plus, and from there you can click on the square boxes on the top right and switch on Q&A, and in there you can type and ask us questions, which reminds me to switch it on. Right, okay, right, it is now on. Okie dokie. So let's, before we start, go through the panel and get them to say hello and introduce themselves, and then we will get going with overtaking. So let's go in order of appearance. So we've got Keith, the Winebreaker.
Evening, everybody. Welcome.
Excellent. Cheers, Keith. And then shortly followed after that, we have Suffolk Andy.
2 thumbs up.
Awesome. And then we have Kev, the infamous biker.
What's going on, people?
Excellent. Every time he does that, it just rings in my ear. Right, excellent. And also we have, cheers Kev, we have Catherine.
Hello, Woman Wolf Rider here, apparently called Elizabeth. Are you high yet, guys? Suffolk Andy is.
So we have Woman Wolf Rider, excellent
Magic
stuff.
mushrooms.
Lovely. Don't do that at home, kids. Right. Okay, so on a more serious note, Catherine, thanks for that. We're going to be talking about, that's all right, so just in the post. Right, we're going to be talking about overtaking. In my experience, and probably if anyone's done much searching on overtaking or accidents on YouTube involving motorbikes, quite a lot of them are caused by, let's say, not an ideal overtaking technique. And so what I wanted to cover off in this session is talk about and highlight the areas where it's best to overtake and where it's not. And obviously we go to the panel for their experience as well and any thoughts that they have, and it's always good to have that input. Okay, so what I want to do to make sure this goes smoothly is I'm going to start with the perfect scenario, because otherwise it's crazy because people say, but what if, but what if, but what if? Let's make it perfect. There's no wind. It's a dead straight road.
No.
And there is only one car in front of you to overtake. So we'll start there. Okay. It's just on a straight road. And that way, once we've understood what the perfect overtake is, if that makes sense, then we can start adding in things like corners and trees and cars and bikes and potholes and all sorts. Okay. Does that sound good to the panel?
Yep.
Yep.
Superbly. Right, now then, I have been a little bit busy. Sorry, the graphics aren't great, but I haven't had much time. But I've tried to put some stuff together to illustrate the best position for the perfect overtake. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm just going to share my screen, and once I've covered this perfect position, we'll go to the panel and get their thoughts as well, and see if they have some other input into that as well, because I'm not saying I'm right, it's just my opinion. I'm not an expert, I'm not a trainer or anything like that. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully everyone can see my screen, and they should see a kind of a road and 2 cars. Yep.
Yep.
Can you see that? Excellent stuff. Right. Okay, now I don't want anyone to get hooked up on the distance or how far away the bike is from the car that's in green. I'm trying to illustrate something first, and then I'll expand from there. So what I've done, I've basically, hopefully you can see my pointer. Yes, you can. Good. There's a green car here, so obviously this is the vehicle that we don't need to overtake, and I've exaggerated how close the bike is to the car just for demonstration purposes only. You wouldn't get that close behind a car, certainly in that position. But what I've then done is shaded out a triangle. And if we say that triangle is what you can see, so let's say this car is a van or whatever, and you're not necessarily looking over the top of it. Could be, you know, a 4x4. Let's just say that's our blind spot, if you like. And so that shaded triangle is the blind spot where you cannot see. So if this is a straight road and a perfect overtaking conditions, then you will probably see from there that the position of the bike on the left-hand side of the car. This is for the UK, by the way. Obviously, reverse this if you're in a different country like the USA where they drive on the other side of the road. It's not the ideal place to be, is it? Let's face it. So what I've done is I've just illustrated, sorry, I'm getting confused with two windows. I'm just going to illustrate, as you move out for the overtake, how that triangle changes. So now if we put the bike in almost directly behind the car, again, not a good place to be anyway, but like I say, it's just for illustration purposes, you'll start to see more of the road, okay, the road that you need to use, or part of it, to overtake and see what's coming. If we move them out further, you can see now we're starting to be able to see the other side of the road. And if we go out one more, which is the best place to be in terms of an overtake, you can see that that shaded triangle, your blind spot, completely moves away from the piece of road that you're interested in that you need to use to overtake. So therefore, the perfect position on this perfect overtaking scenario would be where that bike is now. Okay, so sorry, just flip back round through. So bad, still bad. You see a little bit there, but not the best place to be. And then, of course, out there you've got a good view of what's oncoming. Now, does that come through and illustrate well to the rest of you guys? Because that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay.
I missed all of that. Sorry, my internet went.
No worries, Catherine. Thanks for that.
Sorry.
That's all right. Okay, just for Catherine, if you look, I think it's kind of self-explanatory. Can you see my screen? Hang on, let me select me. I might as well get Andy in the kitchen.
Bike positioning, yeah?
Yeah, ready for an overtake. In the perfect scenario.
Right, lovely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
so there's no bends, no blind anything. It's perfect, no wind, everything. Yeah, just perfect. And it's a straight road. And as I move the, let's go across to here now. If I move the bike out, you can see how the view changes.
Mm-hmm.
And the shaded triangle indicates what you can't see.
Yeah.
Yeah, the blind spot, if you like. So as you move out, I'm illustrating that the best position to be is obviously on the right-hand side of the lane.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stretch that out so it's kind of more realistic now. Okay. So that bike's now, I hope you can still see okay, but the bike is now a more believable distance away from the car, getting ready for an overtake, but obviously still in the wrong position. Now watch what happens to the grey triangle when he moves into the ideal overtaking position. Okay? So I think that kind of makes it very clear. Ignore the appearing pothole there. I'm rushing it.
That's
You
to
can
scale, I
see-
think, as well, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's the entire road. But you can see there how that view changes. So a lot of accidents that I see on YouTube are where the biker starts the overtake in that position there. They start from deep behind the car, and it has another effect as well, which I'll get to in a minute. But there, hopefully that makes it clear. And you can see when he moves to the outside, you can see there's a cyclist up here, okay, and a pothole. So if those weren't there, obviously you could overtake. Now that you could moved out to that position, you can see them there. By the time you go for the overtake, you'll probably be right upon either the pothole or the cyclist. Yeah. So I think hopefully that shows that. Okay. Lovely. Right. So let's go to the panel and see what their thoughts are on that perfect scenario overtake positioning is, and if it's similar to what my thoughts are. So let me just stop sharing my screen a second. There you go. Anyone want to go first?
I'll go first.
Okay.
What a perfect overtake. Okay, maybe you can be in the perfect position, but we don't know if that red car's doing 50 mile an hour, 70 mile an hour, 30 mile an hour.
Right. Yeah.
There's no such thing as a perfect overtake in my book.
Exactly. What I'm trying to say here, Kev, and that's why I'm doing this first, is what we're doing is we're talking about the perfect conditions. So
Right.
There is no oncoming car. I put the car there just to illustrate that you can see.
Right.
But
Okay.
it's perfect. There's nothing in the way. It's just like being in the perfect position to overtake, not the perfect overtake.
Right. Well, in terms of positioning purely, I'll always position myself towards the centre line before even attempting.
Yeah.
I tend to ride towards the centre line anyway, most of the time, unless there's an Arctic coming towards me or something like that, then I'll move over. But the vast majority of the time, I'll be towards the centre line anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Get a good view of the road that way. Yeah. Okay,
I
so
think
you're almost
perfect
already in the
speed as well, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, I mean, basically, if you are in that position, you're already pretty much in the right position for overtake as well, aren't you? If the opportunity arises. So, okay, cheers, Kev. Anyone else want to pick up
Yeah,
on where
I think you need to get yourself obviously set up for the perfect speed, brisk. You don't. I mean, it depends on what bike you're on.
Yeah,
But yeah, just get around the object as quickly as possible, really.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
you don't want to be messing around once you've got out there, dilly dally. You need to be getting out and then getting back in past the car as quick as possible, don't you? Really.
Yeah.
And by getting in that outside position, it gives you that opportunity to gauge whether you're going to be able to make the overtake or not. And if you're not, you can always drop back and wait for another opportunity further down the road, can't you?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just read the text.
Let's give speed at the back here, make me laugh.
Why am I being funny? Just doing a little dance for you.
You can't keep them still.
Hey, you're not taking your bloody drawers off, Kev.
I'm showing a bit of leg.
Oh, God for that.
Okay, so Andy, you got anything to add to the old position in there?
The position there, yeah. If I was going to overtake, I always make sure that I'm in the right position before I do it. And the one thing is not to be right up the arse of the car. You know, you need to be a decent distance behind that car so you can look round it and down the road. You know, so yeah, position is critical when you overtake, and try not to get right up the arse of a car because that will, you know, put you in a bad position for overtaking. Really.
Yeah.
So it's all about knowing your position and where to be and where to set your bike, you know. And I think what Catherine said as well, it's all what bike you're on as well, you know. Certain bikes have got certain limits, and if you know your bike's got a limit, you know, ride to that limit. Don't try and make that bike do something that it's not capable of doing either, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, the fundamental error, I think, for a new rider as well, particularly on a low-powered bike, is they're behind an object, and then suddenly they go into the wind blast as they overtake the vehicle, and they suddenly start slowing. They don't realise they've got oncoming wind pressure, which they were shielded from the car in front.
Yeah.
Slipstreaming.
Mm.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. Right. So. Yeah, sorry I left some other graphics on there, like oncoming cars and stuff. We're trying to just do that clear, perfect day scenario, nothing coming the other way, just so everyone's sort of like, if we start, we've got to have a baseline, haven't we, to start with in terms of overtaking, and you know, being on the outside so you can see down the road is the best place to be.
Sorry, I misunderstood there. Sorry, I jumped the gun.
It's my bad, Kevin. Sorry, I shouldn't have left the graphics on there as well, but yeah, it's kind of just a clear road. Now, there's just one other point that I wanted to pick up on the position as well. And this is where I've seen most accidents, and and so I think it's quite important to explain this next bit. I'm just going to show you my screen again, and I'm going to show you what I've seen in my experience causes the most accidents, and it is this overtake maneuver here. So again, we've already looked at the perfect overtake, haven't we, where the bike's positioned out here on the right. What happened? Excuse keeps head, right? But if you go for the overtake deep inside of the car, the only path you can take is going to swing you out further into the other side of the road. Okay? And most of the accidents I've seen on YouTube and in real life involve someone trying to do a deep undertake from right in behind the car and swing out, you know, almost like that aggressive overtake you see some, you know, squids do and so on, where they're just trying to really show off and overtake a car and really exaggerate the whole movement. Puts you right across the other side of the road into oncoming traffic, of course, and that's not where you want to be, is it? So if we follow on, pardon? Well, yeah. But if you was in the right position, as what we've just discussed, you know, you've got more chance, haven't you, really? Even if there is an oncoming car and somehow you've not managed to see it for whatever reason, you're not putting yourself in as much danger, okay? Because you can still get through that gap. Obviously, if there's nothing coming the other way, you can use more of that lane. But what we're trying to do is just make sure that we're going through properly and in the right position. So I don't know if anyone else experiences it. When it comes to overtaking accidents with bikes, is that similar sort of thing for everyone else in terms of what normally tends to go wrong?
I would not follow that line. Not
What
a
line?
chance. That line that you just had up there, I would not follow that. That's way too close to the car in front that you're overtaking. Way too close.
I think you kind of missed where we started with Richard.
No, the bit where you showed him going right across to the other side of the road, that's a good position to be. You're far enough away from that car that if it starts changing direction, you can react.
Richard, calm down. What we're trying to do is show the advantage of being in a certain position behind the car. So if I share it again quickly, then just to show you. Okay. So the previous position.
That's the one I'm looking at.
Yeah.
I don't know what that's about then.
So would you overtake from this position then?
I wouldn't overtake from that position, no.
Right, and that's what we're discussing at the moment.
But I would go right across the right-hand side of the road.
Absolutely, if there was nothing coming, of course. Right. Okay. So, yeah, this line here, the reason I drew it there is that if for whatever reason the rider wasn't paying attention, there is still a route through because he's started in the right position. Clearly, if there is nothing coming, you're going to extend your arc to get a safer distance from the car. All right. But what I want to do is get to the nitty-gritty bits like blind corners and everything else after we've established where the best place to overtake from is. And what we're trying to establish is this position here where that bike is now. Two reasons. We've talked about the view, which you may not have seen, Richard, but that's my illustration of how your view changes depending on where you are behind the car. Okay, so we're saying that's a good position for view, and then in terms for the actual overtake, the same applies. So it really is the best place to be on a perfectly straight road with no oncoming traffic and everything else. Okay, so you've got a good view and a good way of getting past a vehicle. And then where it gets interesting after that is where we start adding in all the other real-world hazards, such as cars, potholes, cyclists, and all those other sort of things. People on phones, wherever you want to go with it. Okay, so yeah, so going back to what I was saying then, in terms of what people have witnessed in overtaking accidents, just to kind of establish there the overtaking piece, what's been the mainstay of the type of overtaking incidents you've seen go badly wrong? And then I can start.
Impatience.
Okay. Just trying to get.
I've seen many overtakes. Do you know what you demonstrated where you put that car and then obviously gone for a narrow overtake? I've seen many other bikers leave it far too late, overtake not over the vehicle that I'm following, but bloody overtake me and just nip in just in a nick in time. You think, if only they just waited a few more minutes just for that road to open up a little bit more, they'd actually stand a better chance and do a better overtake rather than putting my life at risk and also the car in front of me's life at risk. But
yeah.
I've seen so many of those, where I think it's basically down to impatience or, I'm on a big fast super bike, therefore I can do it and bugger anybody else. They're the main ones I've generally seen when I've been out and about.
A lot of them as well keep come up too close to the car.
Far too
they're right on the back of the bumper, and then they jump out like a bloody salmon.
Yeah.
And then go round as quick as they can.
Yeah. I've seen them almost at the last minute. They've been that quick coming up behind me that I've only seen them as they're overtaking, and then it's only by the look of God that I've done my kind of shoulder check to check before I overtake. I've actually seen them overtake me, so it's just crackers sometimes. They're the main ones that I've seen, and it didn't half scare the living daylights out of me when it happened.
Well, the ones I've seen where the bike is concentrating so much on what he's overtaking, they've not realised the road is on a bend, and they'll go around far too fast for the bend because they got past the vehicle, and they'll be on the other side or off. Seen that.
Yeah. Richard, Kev, any of the common scenarios that normally ends in a failure
Not really. I think a lot of it just boils down to bad planning and impatience, doesn't it? You know, just being a bit too eager with the right hand and not planning the overtake properly, not getting in the right position, acting like a complete and utter wanker on the road. That's usually the only thing that cause it, really, isn't it? If you give yourself, it's very simple, isn't it? If you give yourself the maximum amount of time and the maximum amount of space, then it's all going to be good.
Yeah. Well, there is one other scenario that I thought someone might have mentioned that I think is quite common, and I've seen it many a time in real life, not just on YouTube, is when there is a group of bikers that tend to be, the ones that go out on a Sunday for a blast on their plastic rockets, and they're trying to get past in traffic, and of course the lead rider has the best chance of getting past because he's got the furthest up the road, if you like, and then there might be 4 or 5 of them, and the person in the 5th place has got nowhere near as much distance to get past the same vehicles, and they've gone that much further up the road, and they're the ones that tend to take the risks and try and leave it too late, and they're the ones that normally tend to get caught, trying to stay with the pack rather than waiting for the next opportunity. So,
True.
Okay, yeah, that's what I've seen a lot of. Okay, so before we now talk about mitigating the circumstances, so in other words, bends and all those sorts of things, and oncoming traffic and all that stuff, I'm just going to go to Q&A and see what our folks are saying that are watching. Okay, so Big Kev says, good morning, chaps. Hi, Big Kev.
Morning, Kev.
And Larry Davis says, what happens if the idiot cager don't like bikes and moves nearer to the white line to stop you overtaking? It has happened to me before, or they speed up.
Or squirt you with their washers.
Yeah, or try to squirt you with washers, or call you a wanker, or all sorts of things like that. Your best, mate, to try and keep your distance and try and get past them as soon as possible, especially in heavy traffic, which I'll get to, but that's filtering kind of more than overtaking. But I'll just quickly say the reason for that is that if you're in heavy traffic, at some point you will have to go past them, so better stay in front of them rather than forget which car it was and they get ready for you to come up and do whatever it is they want to plan to do whilst you're making your way back through the traffic. Okay, Jisuto77 says, sorry I'm late to the party, hence my first question would be, do you need to overtake if you are already doing the speed limit? What is the speed limit and what speed is the car in front doing? Well, the speed limit is the conditions, isn't it? I mean, there is a fixed speed limit on a road that you get, so like 70 miles an hour on a motorway, for example, but if it's icy, then obviously you're not going to be doing that speed. So I would just say the conditions is the speed. Do you need to overtake? Well, I don't know. Is there a fire? It all depends, doesn't it? If the person, you might not feel comfortable finding it, maybe it's a lorry or something like that, and you've got no visibility. I quite often like to get past vehicles that I can't see past, because I like to see further up the road, and if I can't, I don't feel very comfortable about that. You know, it's that. I think Richard mentioned it before in another hangout where you need to scan, like 2 miles up the road and back again. And if you've only got a truck in front, you can only scan 20 metres in front of you, then that's no good, is it? It's not a comfortable feeling. Well, not for me.
I think, Andy, a lot of bikers don't like being stuck behind a car doing the same sort of speed. I get really frustrated if that happens to me. And even if I overtake them, I'll drop back to that speed and just sit in front of them or just gently pull away. I don't like sitting behind anything that I can't see in front of me. I can't see why you see these cages or car drivers on motorways sitting behind lorries at 56 miles an hour for miles. I don't get it.
Trying to save fuel, I think.
Yeah, but I couldn't do it. That would do my head in. So I always try and just slip past them and then drop back to normal speed again,
Yeah. And of course they throw up rubbish as well, don't they?
Yeah.
Sorry. On the question of speed that was just mentioned there, as far as I'm aware, in the police handbook, you're allowed to exceed the speed limit to overtake something safely and then return back to the speed limit. But correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that's in the police handbook.
They can allow you to get away with that if they feel like they want to, but it's not.
Well, yeah.
It's not a legal requirement.
No.
I think when I did my I asked that very question, and it wasn't really the done thing. They basically said if the car in front of you is doing the speed limit, you've got no real reason to want to overtake them going any faster anyway. If they get in, if you're sort of get a bit frustrated because they're not going as fast as you would like them to go, then really you ought to be dropping back a little bit further and calming down, and then eventually you eventually get the opportunity to overtake anyway. But if they're doing the speed limit, you shouldn't really be doing any faster than that anyway, to be honest.
But if they're going just below the speed limit, say they're doing 55, you can go up to say 63, 65 to safely get past them. I think that's within the parameters of the law, I believe.
Right.
Anyway.
I mean,
I don't mean that you're overtaking them because they are going to speed below, and you just nip past them, you know, safely, briskly get past the object.
I think it's one for Richard to investigate. He's our legal team.
Guru.
ACPO have guidelines on speed over speed limit before they will prosecute, although if they deem you doing something dangerous, they'll have you anyway. But legally speaking, you can't speed, end of story. The police were very clear with us, because obviously we do a bit of riding with the police, that if you're behind a car and it's doing 5 miles an hour under the speed limit, you stay behind it. Because 5 miles an hour to stay within the law, overtaking is not enough to safely get yourself past. In reality, yeah, everybody does it, don't they? But if we're doing a thing about safety and about where the police legally can see it, they can have you for 61 in a 60. On the bike safe, they were a bit more flexible. They said, you know, we know bikers like to go quick. If you're in a 60 doing 70, we don't care. If you're in a 70 doing 80, we don't care. But if you're in a 30, 40 or 50, if there's a number on that sign, then we do care. And we can have you for 2-3 miles an hour over if we feel like we want to.
And there's one other scenario that I experience a lot. I don't know if anyone else has, but there may be a car deliberately doing, say, I don't know, 40 in a 50 or 50 in a 60, and you go for the overtake, you know, that gentle overtake according to the law, so you don't go above the actual speed limit, and they speed up as you go for the overtake, leaving you sat on the outside of them. So the situation there is, if you've got a powerful bike, I would suggest that you carry on your overtake and go a little bit faster. Get in front of them. Don't leave yourself sitting out there. And obviously, if you've not got a powerful bike, then it's going to be not a very nice situation, because you've got to backtrack into where you came from, and who knows, someone might have filled that space. So really, you need to think about whether or not you've got the bike to be overtaken in the first place. But I don't know if anyone else has experienced that, cars speeding up as you try to overtake.
Yeah, you can also get the situation where they speed up. You've got a car behind you, and they follow you straight up on the overtake. So you're overtaken with a car overtaking behind you, and the car in front speeds up, and that can get a bit messy then.
Well,
but
yeah,
that's probably why, Andy, we like boosters and ZZRs, mate.
Yeah, so you never get stuck out there, because
you never get stuck out there because you just pull that throttle and you're off like a rocket anyway.
That's right. And that's why, you know, that I do have, you know, there is limits to be. This is about safety, don't forget. It's not about not getting speeding tickets. It's about being safe. And if you have to go a little bit faster than the speed limit to get past because someone sped up, then do it. And then get in safely and judge the situation from there going forwards. If you think they're risking that car, then it's time to pull over and let them go past.
Yeah.
But certainly don't sit out there worrying about going over the speed limit, for crying out loud, because that's going to get really messy, especially if you can't back again. And then you've got too many things to think about. Can I actually go back to where I came from? Just get past, you know, is my advice on that one. But you may get a speeding ticket. Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, that's the overtaking. So I think that answered your question, DeSuto. You know, speed is about conditions for me. Obviously, try to respect the law, but ultimately, it's to do with the conditions mainly. Okay, 08 Ride says, Suffolk Andy, there's a case of a driver who will get on the motorway, sit in the middle lane, and happily, and be happy to sit there behind something and wait for them to move out of the way, and then they will accelerate past. They would prefer to do that than overtake.
Well, I think he's talking about lane hoggers really there. I think people who are just happy to do the 70 mile an hour or whatever it is in the middle of the lane and don't go anywhere. They don't care. We get that all the time on the A14 because that's a lorry park. So we get that a lot where people sit on the outside, 65, 70, won't move over for nobody, won't get in between lorries or anything like that, and the cars will back up behind them. Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Get it all the time, yeah.
Good stuff. Okay, I don't want to go off the subject of overtaking because remember we haven't got to any scenarios about other cars coming the other way yet. But Big Kev says if someone is driving like a fool, even though they are doing the speed limit, I will pass them. Well, yeah, I prefer to have trouble behind me than in front of me. But that's my personal opinion, of course.
Yeah.
Let me just quickly see. Two Wheels, a point of view. Hi, buddy. He says, on a recent bike safe video, I saw the police did encourage exceeding the limit for a safe overtake as long as you drop back to the limit afterwards. Absolutely, mate. Because it's very difficult to think about trying to get back where you came from. And as we've already discussed, if someone's followed you for the overtake, you can't go backwards anyway. So you're best off sticking to one plan and that's getting past.
And to be honest, you're concentrating on the pass rather than the speed you're doing anyway. So to get past safely and quickly, you're not necessarily watching that speedo like a hawk, are you?
No, not at all.
No, watch the road.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, just quickly one more from Gazatron then, and we'll get to the next bit where things start getting tricky. We start talking about junctions and stuff. Oh my god, it's half an hour gone already. Gazatron says, evening lads and lass, just started watching in a group ride. There is a certain amount of responsibility on the lead rider. Yes, good point. Not to go too far ahead, leaving people behind, putting pressure on the riders further back in the pack to overtake. Yeah, that kind of goes back to what I was saying about, you know, the last rider. There's always the one struggling to get past, and it's not fair on them. And I think when you do ride out in groups, it's best to try and make sure that the lead rider knows that there's enough room for everyone to get by. Or not overtake at all, because it just encourages people further back to try and get past when it's not as safe to do so, possibly.
That's frustrating as well if you're that last rider as well, because you're always playing catch up, and that's not a good position to be in. I've been in that loads of times in group rides and stuff, you know.
I'd just like to cut in that riding with Wyvern bikers group. I've been out on a couple of his chip shot runs, and that's some of the safest group riding I've ever encountered. They ride briskly within the limit, and everybody knows everybody's not going to be left behind. It's perfect riding.
Yeah. Keith rides briskly if you're on a mobility scooter.
They can only just keep up, can't they, Kev?
The mobility scooters. The mobility scooters.
Yeah.
Brisk walking pace.
I love them.
Yeah. But no, he does do safe ride outs, and obviously with Keith at the front, you're not going to worry about breaking any speed limits. But no, they are good safe ride outs, and I recommend them fully and wholeheartedly. What is he doing anyway? He's got himself muted. I don't know why. He's probably eating cornflakes. Right. Okay. Let's move on then from the sort of. We kind of think we've understood now the viewing position and the best position to start your overtake from. Now we need to start talking about things. Now I won't get to junctions just yet. Let's talk about corners, and then we'll go. We'll just go wherever anyone wants to go, and we'll just discuss it in general. Then I think it's the best way I can think of keeping it under control. So let me just share my screen then. So I'm going to introduce a corner. Dun dun dun! Exciting stuff, eh? Right, can we all see the corner? Now, just to save time. I've done one left and right, and then just to show us. So I've got the bike still in what we've kind of come to agree as being the best place to start an overtake from. So there's no junctions, and it's just a left-hand corner and a right-hand corner. Now, obviously, overtaking on a left-hand corner, as you can see, is probably not a good idea. And it's certainly a position that I don't feel comfortable with, again, especially if your view's covered. Okay? But obviously round to the left, you've got a bit more of a view, and therefore you can consider whether or not you can overtake, depending on the scenario. Now, some people don't like to overtake on corners full stop. So what I would like to know is if any of the panel have any input onto this overtaking on corners. Now, these aren't blind corners, they're perfectly clear, you can see for miles. So anyone else like overtaking or not, as the case may be, on corners?
I don't overtake on corners, Andy. I wouldn't even think about it. Unless I can see the road sweeping away for miles, and there's nothing coming, yeah, then I'll do it. That's all according to what speed you're doing as well. You don't want to go into a corner, and even a slight angled corner, even if you can see for miles, sometimes if you're going at a speed, you know, you've got to lean that bike over to get round that corner, and that can cause you problems if you're going too fast. You know, because the bike will want to sit up anyway.
Yeah, I think
you've got to be confident. You've got to be confident. You know what you're doing, basically.
Yeah, I certainly would recommend hooning around a corner and overtaking a vehicle at the same time. And let's use a common scenario then, just try and give ourselves a baseline again. The classic scenario of a tractor on a two-lane road, go around a corner really slowly, and you can see past the tractor. Obviously, if you go around to the right, you can see, but round to the left. That would start there, I think. Would anyone overtake on either scenario? Or?
Right-hand bends are generally the best place to overtake.
Mm-hmm.
You can get visibility, not by going in the right-hand side, but by tucking right across to the left. You can get visibility around the bend before the thing in front of you, and then you can power out because generally you've got more power than anything else. Left-hand bends not so much.
Mm. Yeah.
Unless, of course, you're in America. Did they have bends in America?
No. very few, Richard.
Right.
Very few. Anyone else want to sort of suggest on left and right overtaking on bends?
I'm with Suffolk Andy. I don't overtake on a bend. I wouldn't even overtake on a bend if it was a tractor going around slowly. I'd sooner wait till the bend's over and done with, and then make a conscious decision about overtaking. And I've just got to think about bends. I think maybe it goes back to me, driving a car. I wouldn't overtake in a car on a bend, and I certainly wouldn't do it on a bike either. Even if it was, to other people it was perfectly safe to do so, I'd rather err on the safer side of caution and just wait for a decent straight bit of road and then go for the overtake rather than risk a bend, because you just don't know what's going to happen. You could go around a bend, there might be a bit of shit on the road, and there could be all sorts of things. Just because you can't necessarily, you think it might be clear, but there might just be something just on that side of the road, and I'd rather just err on the side of caution really and not bother at all.
Just to qualify what I said, Keith, I'm talking about a situation where you can, so you're actually into the right-hander.
Yeah.
And as you're about to power out, come in.
Yeah. Even if I can see, Richard, I still wouldn't. I just still wouldn't. I've just got something about bends. I think I'd rather just. Well, you know me. I'm never in that much of a bloody hurry anyway. I'd rather wait. I'm patient enough to wait for the bend to be over and done with, and then I'll go overtake. I just don't see the need necessarily. You're probably more confident than I would, and you'll go for it. That's fine. That's up to you. But I'd sooner not.
I wouldn't say go for it is the right thing, but
no, but you know what I mean. You feel confident enough to be able to do the overtake on a bend, knowing that it was clear. I would sooner hang back and just wait for the bend to be finished, to be honest.
But once the bend's finished, the car's accelerating. Yeah. So you're taking that opportunity of a slow car to whip past. That's. I mean, that's IM thing. So I thought you'd cover that.
Well, yeah, but it's about personal choice, isn't it? And and whether you feel it's something you want to do or whether you don't want to do. But
it's got to be clear. It's got to be safe. All the other things.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I wouldn't
the roundabout thing, isn't it? Coming off a roundabout, coming out of a junction is often the best time to get your overtake in.
I wouldn't disagree.
You can get past before that car's up to 30 miles an hour.
I wouldn't disagree. I think you're right, but I've just got to think about bends. I'd rather not. I'd rather just wait and choose a moment a bit later on.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely fair enough.
Well, I've got a scenario where a few years ago I got a passenger on the back of my MV Agusta, and the road was a double width road. I was overtaking on the bend. I mean, it was a really wide road, and then I just got a whiff of diesel, and the back end just sort of stepped out, and the real bottom clenching moment. And I don't like overtaking on bends either, so I'd prefer to wait to the straights, like Keith, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean personally, if it's clear and I can see, I may consider, depending on the scenario, overtaking on a right-hander. It has to be clear.
I think I'd have to say the same as you, Andy, because I will do it, but I've got in my mind, that's got to be right. It's got to be right.
Yeah.
I mean, any day I'm going to stay behind.
Yeah, but for me, left-handers, extremely rare would there be a scenario where I think it's worth it. I just don't like the concept. Because what you're overtaking is blocking what you're trying to see. I just don't like that scenario at all. So very rarely will I try and get past, go around on the left. I can quite happily do a Wyvern biker and wait it out. So yeah. But
it's going to cost you seconds, isn't it? It's not like you're in a race or anything, so there's no point.
But each to their own. I understand that it's Keith's position as well, that he doesn't like overtaking on corners full stop, which is fair enough. And of course, it's about being comfortable, isn't it? And if someone says, "Oh yeah, you can overtake on the right hand side or on a right hand bend," but you don't feel comfortable about it, then don't do it. Never ride.
I would say, Andy, as well, new riders who haven't got the experience of some of us chaps here and ladies, I would say to them, don't even contemplate it until you get the experience and know what you're doing. You might come out of learner school and think you're, Barry Sheen, but you're not. And you will come a gutser if you get it wrong. Even we will if we get it wrong. So I think all that sort of scenario of bends and corners and overtaking comes with experience as well. And knowing the situation. And what you're up and what you physically can do.
Yeah. Okay. So I think from there, we've kind of covered the basics. Bends, because roads have bends. Well, in the UK they do. And just overtaking in general on kind of the best scenario conditions where there's not a lot to worry about really. And so from there, I just want to throw it open. Because we haven't talked about blind bends, junctions, or anything else that may lie ahead in terms of your overtaking path. I'm just going to throw it open now for anyone in the Q&A or anyone on the panel that wants to talk about any of the danger spots, really, or the places where you wouldn't want to overtake outside of what we just talked about.
When you're coming upon a junction, that's definitely a no-no. You don't want to be overtaking when you're approaching a junction. Just in case the car in front decides it's going to take a left or a right, or in fact, in case the car decides to pull out of a junction. It's just one of those things that you're not supposed to do anyway, are you really? Even though you might think it might be, well, it looks fairly clear to me. The moment that you guarantee you pull out to do overtake, you guarantee someone appears at that junction that you perhaps didn't see. So I think that's one scenario. That's a definite no-no.
Yeah, junctions, and I agree. If I see a junction ahead, and it would involve me going past a junction whilst I'm doing an overtake, then I won't overtake because I have no idea what might come screaming out of that junction at any moment. And therefore I wouldn't overtake personally if I could see a junction in my overtake path, if that makes sense. So yeah, I agree with you on that one, Keith. Anyone got any others?
Traffic islands. I mean, you see more lane switching on islands than I think anywhere, so you've got to be so cautious. So I would tend to just pick my lane and then just crawl around the corner and go. I wouldn't, overtake something on an island.
Yeah. Any more on where you wouldn't want to overtake?
Anywhere where there's not a route back in. So if there's a queue of cars and you aren't guaranteed a place to come back in. But I'm not quite as far as some people who say don't overtake more than one car at a time. But if there's a big queue, there's no gaps back in, not worth a chance because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. Actually, Richard, in fact, you've just triggered something in my brain about overtaking more than one car, and I think it's one worth raising as well. So I'm going to choose one now because Richard's reminded me. If I go back to my drawer in a second, I'll just add another car and give us more than one car to overtake. Share that. Right, can you see that? Okay, yeah. Okay. So here we are. We're looking for an overtake. Yeah. Ignore the pothole and all that stuff. We're just trying to construct a scenario. But we've been riding along, and this car here has been, up and down, looking around this car, here, there, everywhere, trying to edge round. Okay? You know what's going to happen, don't you? As soon as there is, well, some of you might not know, but as soon as there is a clear opportunity and that car's gone, and this car's been jostling around here all the time, and obviously this is about observation now. as soon as that space appears, you might be on a powerful bike, and you might say, well, I'll take these two, no problem at all. Yeah, but this car's been moving around and jostling for position behind this car as well. And the classic is, you go for the, let's get rid of this red line a minute. You go for the overtake, yeah, and so is the car. And quite often what happens is, you're here, he swings out, and boosh, you're off the road. So I'm going to choose that scenario there for myself in terms of where I wouldn't overtake, as long as with the islands and the junctions. If there is a car that's jostling for position and it also looks like they want to overtake, then you have to be really careful, and I would suggest wait for them, because they may or may not have seen you, and I think you've probably seen a few of these on YouTube as well, where the car swings out at the last minute and just fires the bike into the grass.
I think you have to also, on top of that, is not follow them, because a lot of people will tuck right in behind that car and follow it through.
Yeah.
And you don't know if he's going to pull in and slow down, he's going to keep going, if you're going to end up alongside him, and you don't know what you're going into because you might not be able to see past him.
Yeah. He might do the overtake, according to the law, and overtake at 2 miles an hour. And if you commit yourself, you're like, come on, get past. So yeah, it's a very good point, Richard. Yeah, I
left out there the drawing room.
Yeah.
It's best to let them do their overtake and see what's happening after they've done that, and then make up your mind what you want to do.
Yeah.
It falls back to the golden rule of always having a backup plan.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The escape plan, backup plan. Yeah. But of course, you can avoid all of that by not following someone on the overtake, for example, or looking out for that, and therefore you don't have to worry about that. Just stay safe that way. So we've got junctions, we've got islands, and double overtakes when a car's jostling for position. And Richard also mentioned about making sure you can get back in, which is kind of important. Is there any other scenarios that we don't think we might have covered? I can't think of anything.
There's one more on positioning that I don't think you covered.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to cover any others on scenarios first.
No, go for it. Whatever, Richard. Like I said, I'll just throw it open now because I don't know where it goes really, because it gets quite complex. So
there's one that I see a lot. If you bring that last picture up.
Of the double overtaking.
And obviously I can't. Well, any of them really, with that line on is the line I'm looking for.
Oh, right, okay. Okay, I should still be able to undo the line. If I go back a few. Oh, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's kind of, I mean, it's just covering the point of that line really. That I see a lot of people doing the same thing, which is they get up behind the car, they spot the overtake, and they start to accelerate, and then they pull out. And at the point of pulling out, that's where you suddenly see all the things that you couldn't see because the car was in the way. So what I will aim to do is pull out just sideways. So you can almost imagine that being a triangle with a horizontal line on your picture. Yeah. So you pull out, make sure that all those bits you couldn't see because you were there, so all those, I can't point, can I?
No, but
this is not Team Viewer. Yeah, so all those bits that are in the left-hand side of that triangle, still on the road, but that dark area, you can't see them. So if you pull out to the side without accelerating, that triangle suddenly narrows off, and you can see the cyclist you couldn't see, or the person, the child who looks like he's about to run across the street, or the pothole, something the car's going to avoid.
Yeah, so that scenario, basically, if I flip between those two...
Yeah. So by pulling out to the right and getting that view, that again is about your backup plan.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, I think he's frozen. But I'm sure.
Come straight back in. But it's avoiding that thing, 'cause you see it a lot. You see people who commit to it by accelerating, and they have to pull out to the right no matter what, because otherwise they're going into the back of the car in front of them.
Yeah.
So if you get out first, then accelerate, it doesn't cost you much in terms of the overtake.
Yeah.
And it means you get a better view before you do it.
Yeah, exactly. It's about the view, as you just described there, Richard, and that's exactly what I was trying to emulate before. Yeah. Having the view, but also the other problem that you cause, if you start a deeper overtake, this is where I was trying to explain that, you're forced right across into the lane no matter what, because otherwise, as Richard's just said, you're going to smack into the car. So
I would say that actually the position where that red line goes, apart from the curve of it, is probably
I was trying that curve.
It's probably a good position to pull yourself right across to that right hand side for the best view down, assuming there's no right-hand junctions and things like that, or gravel, or things that should have stopped you doing the overtake anyway.
Yeah.
But you've got the absolute best view, and then just whip past.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just common sense, isn't it? You've got the view, you've got the best line, you've got the easiest way to get past.
I think the thing that a lot of people fall for is when the bike isn't really powerful enough to do the overtake.
Yeah.
So they've started the overtake well before they're actually safely committed, just to get up to speed, to get the speed differential.
Yeah.
Then when they pull out, it's too late to slow down, and it's too late to come back in because you're alongside the car. And if there's something coming the other way, well, that's you done, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's another good one, Richard. Absolutely. I've seen people that start to overtake too far away from the vehicle that they want to overtake, and they build up a ridiculous amount of speed before they've even got past the car, and then something looms on the horizon, and they've got nowhere to go. They certainly can't stop in time, and they end up, they've got a choice: plowing to the back of the car, go off the grass, or hit the oncoming vehicle coming the other way, wherever it was. So, yeah, don't leave it too big a gap either. I think that's important. Just get that optimum distance to nip round. Because I've seen a few people commit to an overtake far too far away from the vehicle they wish to overtake, and they end up building up too much speed that they can't scrub off, and then it ends nasty.
Well, we use two different approaches. So one is what they call, one is you're coming up to something that's going slower than you, everything's clear, you get across onto the right-hand side of the road quite early and just whip past them, and you're doing 20 miles an hour fast or whatever it might be, and there's nothing there. But the other one is the catch, match, and dispatch. So catch them up, get to the same speed as them, and rather than being 2 seconds behind, you're 1 second behind. Yeah. But you're right across that right-hand side. If there's no overtake, drop back until you can see there probably is, then get back to 1 second. Then it's easy just to whip out, quick last check, and off you go.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about the only time you break that. I agree totally with that as well, Richard. It's the only time you break that 2 second rule that you hear a lot about, because you're not going to be behind the car in such a way. Obviously, the 2 second rule applies to cars. They're big square things, and there's not room for two of them in a lane. If I just quickly screen share again, just to show what I'm talking about. Sorry for all this messing about screen sharing, but because we're out here, in this position, ready to overtake, if he does slam on the brakes, we've got a chance. Okay, so it's a good place to be. It is quite close, but out of the way, so if whatever happens, you can get through. That's what I'm trying to say there. And that's kind of the best place to be. And you don't want to see yourself too big a gap, as you just said, because you end up building up a lot of speed and may not then be able to get past when you actually get to the point of passing. So, yeah, excellent stuff. Nice one, Richard.
But you also put yourself in his wing mirror.
Absolutely, yeah.
Another thing that's worth doing if you are stuck behind someone for a while, but not 1 second behind them, so back a bit. If you think the person in front of you hasn't seen you, one of the things that we try and do is you go right across to the left and back again, and that way you go from the right-hand mirror to the central mirror to the left-hand mirror and back. And if they still haven't seen you, they're never going to see you, I think.
But they're on Facebook for sure. But yeah, I do that as well. Basically, I try and shine your headlight into each of their mirrors. So the left mirror, the right mirror, and the centre mirror, and hopefully one of those points will actually get their attention. If it doesn't, obviously, then they are on Facebook, or they're blind. I don't know. But yeah.
But don't be frightened of using your horn as well. I mean, if I'm riding along and there's somebody coming up to a T-junction, if I've not got eye contact with the driver, I'm not opposed to bipping at them until they can see me.
Yeah. That reminds me to upgrade the horn on my bike because I can't hear it over the exhaust. But yeah, so yeah, loud pipes save lives and all that. But yeah, beat the horn. Okay. Wow. I'm not sure if we will get to filming at this rate. It's nearly 10 o'clock already. So let me just go to the Q&A a bit, get a bit of audience power. Hemcart comes with a useful tip. Hi all, just got here. Cheers, Hemcart. Jasuto77 says, personally, junctions are a no-no, same as with roads from the sides. Yeah, kind of the same thing. Either side on your overtake route. Yeah, if I see any junctions coming into my path where I need to overtake, I'm not overtaking. It's as simple as that. See if we've got any new posters. Oh, Skeggy Cruiser was going to join us, but he's It's not. You're saying, I'm thinking of using Mrs. Skeggy's 125 for Keith's next ride out. Best chance of ending up in front.
He's a cheeky sod.
The bends and should tend to be flat and clear.
You'll have to fit it with that small bore kit.
Yeah. Indeed, yeah. Downsize it. But yeah, put some more gaskets on the head so you can extend the stroke so you don't get much power. But yeah, basically, what he's saying there, though, is, apart from all the side of the jokes, is of Wyvern's riding style, is that in Lincolnshire, and I've lived there, I used to live in Market Rasen, the roads are very flat and you can see a lot. So there is that opportunity for overtaking. But wherever there are bushes and it's blind corners, which we haven't really talked about, have we, blind corners? Maybe we should go there. That's when it's all a bit different. So, yeah, nice one. Okay, let's do a couple more from the Q&A. Oh, Bex is in. Let's quickly go to Bex. I think it's important to do a lifesaver over your right shoulder before pulling out an overtake. Yeah. Just in case something else behind you is overtaking that you haven't seen in your mirrors. Yes. And, the lifesaver thing for me is, if you've not been keeping an eye on your mirrors, then absolutely. And sometimes I'm not looked at the mirrors and I'll do a lifesaver, so that's a good point to make think. What does the rest of the panel think on that?
Definitely a shoulder check.
Yeah.
Probably not a lifesaver for an overtake, but definitely a shoulder check. Lifesaver, because you are so close to the car in front, a lifesaver is kind of right round.
Yeah, he's got the brakes on.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely a quick shoulder check.
Yeah, I always say as well with modern bikes, as we've said before, a lot of modern bikes, the mirrors on them are not the best. But you should always make sure that you have those mirrors set up to their maximum. They can, you can see. And always remember, even on a bike as a car, there is a blind spot. So I always check the mirror, and I always look over and check the blind spot as well before I do it. Because you never know. Like I said on that video I put up the other week, last week, that guy who overtook me. He took me completely by surprise. I had no idea he was coming, and that just shocked me, because I had no idea he was coming. So always make sure that you look in that mirror and look to that blind spot as well. And if you've got that checked, you should be fine.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's what we're saying is that, the lifesaver is that massive look around, isn't it? Quite often used when you're coming off of a roundabout. But when you go for an overtake, you can see your mirror, so you know what's behind. You just need to get that blind spot. Tick the box on the blind spot, and then it's good to go. Yeah. Nice one. Ooh. Okay. I don't know what that was. Excuse me.
Divine intervention.
Indeed. Okay. Let's try and pick anyone else new on the Q&A. Yeah, we've got Bimbleboy Blue, and he says, as a 125 rider, I have to think very carefully about overtaking. Yeah, I can guess. Wait, my mistake. I don't mean think. I mean fantasize. Yeah, it's tough for people that are on restricted bikes. It really is, and you have to be really careful about your, the targets that you choose to overtake, because you don't want to be left hanging out in the right-hand lane or left-hand lane if you're in a different country. Absolutely not. We've also got a comment from Potter's Biker, and he says, "Hi to you all. It's all about planning ahead and road conditions and being aware." Yeah, it's the whole scenario thing. And you do have to keep an eye on the whole bigger picture of what's going on, certainly not just focus on the car in front. There's a whole lot more going on around you that you need to be aware of for overtaking, or anything. Excellent. Okay, I think we've covered them on Q&A. I'm conscious of the time. How do you think we're going? Because, I don't think we might get filtered into this one. What do you guys think? We've not even talked about blind corners yet, have we?
No.
They're easy, though, aren't they? Don't overtake them.
Right, thanks for watching. And,
you'd be nuts.
Yeah.
Suicidal.
I saw somebody do it on your video the other day, Andy.
Oh, certainly he did.
Oh, yeah, I saw that one. God, I'll tell you what, that made my arse flipping twitch, and I wasn't even riding a bike.
Quite near a hospital, which was handy.
Yeah, there's a hospital there as well. A private one, though, so I don't think he had the insurance for that one, though, Richard. I'll tell you what, not trying to get off subject, he actually undercut a friend of mine about 10 minutes beforehand at over 150 mile an hour on the A14. And I had seen him about 5 minutes before that on the big roundabout up there, which is very busy, Martlesham roundabout, and he was going round and round and round, putting his knee down in amongst all the cars as well. Complete knob.
Maybe it was stolen.
No, I don't think so.
Just a complete dick then.
Oh yeah, he was out to intimidate other riders, I think, that day.
Oh, right, okay. Well, you know, your feet have got a purpose, and it's not just holding your bike up when you stop.
No.
Anyway, I don't want to encourage anyone to sniff in the course with their feet. Okay, a quick one from Hepcat Harley, and he says, don't overtake near occupied lay-bys, and I like that idea. Very good. Yes. So if there are vehicles in a lay-by, yeah, but they might want to try and pull out or do silly things. Yeah. And also, of course, the car in front of you may be. I think that's the other thing you have to consider is the vehicle that is target you're overtaking. If there's anything in front of them that might cause them, it might not worry you, but it might cause them to worry and make them change direction. You certainly don't want that going on when you're trying to get past them. So yeah, lay-by is a good one, Hepcat, like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is we'll just quickly talk about blind bends. I think everyone knows what blind corners are and blind bends, but you know, let's just quickly go into it for a second. I'll share my screen. Here's one I prepared earlier. So if we look, that was the previous bend scenario. We could see when we talked about whether or not you would overtake on a bend. Of course, the whole scenario changes when it's a blind bend, and I think there I've illustrated that very well with my rubbish graphics. Yeah, exactly. There's a forest or a few trees or bushes, anything that's blocking your view really. Could have been a house, but yeah. So that's blind bends, and nobody, in their right mind, I would imagine, would want to try and overtake in that scenario.
No, not a chance.
In that scenario, I'd be dropping back and tucking into the left-hand side of the road as well.
Absolutely, yeah, because you don't know what's coming around that corner.
Yeah.
You know, tractors. Well, yeah, let's just come off the blind bend thing. I think it's kind of obvious for everyone. I don't even need to show that slide really. But one thing I will say though is that on blind bends, you can't see what's coming. And Richard made a very good point about getting onto the left-hand side of the lane, because if you're in the country lanes, which is where bikers like to ride, it's the best roads. Tractors on their own are fine, but it's what they're carrying or towing that seems to be the problem more often than not. And a lot of the stuff they carry tends to straddle outside of the lane. You know, you see some of the machinery they carry on the back of those tractors, and quite often the wheels are actually, you know, wider than the road and have to slow down to let cars get past. And they've got all these like sharp knives and stuff coming out. So if you want to go onto the right-hand side of the lane and go around a corner on a blind bend on a country road, it could end up not very good. I think it's probably the best thing to see there. I don't know anyone else's thoughts on that. I've seen some crazy stuff being towed on the back of tractors before now.
Yeah, live in Suffolk, you'll see it all the time. Every day.
But they take up more than a whole lane, don't they, quite often?
Yeah, they do, and they're very slow.
And the bloody pea pickers, they're huge. You've seen them things?
Tater ones as well, the big... Oh, man.
Yeah, they're like 1.5 times the width of the road.
Combine harvesters we have here. God, Christ.
You can't even get past them. They have an escort and everything. But of course, if you're flying around a corner and with your knee down on a blind bend and you hit a combine harvester, it's kind of, you know, good night really.
Yeah.
End of that. Okie dokie. Yeah, I think we will have to postpone filtering, and unless we want to carry on. But Mrs. B will probably get really upset if I go on too long as well.
Yeah. Okay.
So whilst I scan the Q&A, has anyone else got anything else they want to add into overtaking that we haven't discussed already?
I think basically it's just a case of getting the experience of doing it and making sure you go through the process as a process as well. I think Richard has put us through most of that. Because, you know, he's the guy who's done all the advanced training and he knows all the laws and whatever. But I think that's just position. Always make sure you're not going to be passed by something, you know, when you pull out, and make sure the road is clear ahead and make sure you got the speed to do it and just do the job. and get back in and carry on with your journey. But just do it safe. Don't ever, if you're in any doubt whatsoever, or a shadow of a doubt, don't do it, because that will come bad for you. So I think it's just common sense. Make sure you got the speed. Make sure you go through the process of checking and everything else, and doing the manoeuvre in the safest way possible. Yeah, don't take any risks whatsoever. If there's any risk there, even if that's the smallest risk, don't do it. It's got to be clear and precise.
Yeah, tick all the boxes on what we've been discussing tonight. And if you're comfortable and you've got the power and all of those things, then yeah, fine. And you should feel comfortable about doing the overtake. You know, if you're thinking, oh, will I get past? Then there's probably best to wait.
And there's not one of us on this panel who can't say that we've never ever messed up an overtake, because we all have. We've all done it.
Oh,
and
God, yeah.
Yeah, loads of times. And sometimes, you think, God, did I really do that? So, even our experience and whatever.
Yeah, but then we learn from that, don't we? And we think, well, that scenario, I'm not doing that again. Jesus. But that's the thing. That's why it's good to have some seasoned riders on the panel, and also new riders as well, so that we can bounce off each other. Because it is important, I think. There's some things that we learn by experience that you wouldn't want anyone else to go through, like nearly shitting yourself when you got the flipping overtake wrong. And it's better that we can convey that to them rather than have to go through the same brown pants moment when they get it wrong as well. Hopefully.
I think as well, though, Andy, once you're committed, and now I've seen this, you commit yourself and you think it's safe, and then all suddenly you think, oh, I've got this a bit wrong. Once you commit, I don't think you can fall back. I think you've just got to pull the throttle back and just do it. Even if you're a bit in doubt, just do it.
Yeah.
I've done that before. I've looked at now. I've just got to pull this bike flat out, And
yeah,
do it that way.
It does depend a little bit on the power of your bike, but I mean, but the last bikes that I've had have all been extremely powerful. And when you open that throttle, I can tell you, you're accelerating a lot quicker than you can ever stop. So basically you're committed, really. Yeah. Because you're not going to squib that speed off again once you've opened that throttle.
No, you're not.
It's just going to go like a flipping boomerang, well, not a boomerang, but it's going to go like a rubber band.
Yeah.
Kind of launched, aren't you, really? That's it. So, yeah, carry on your manoeuvre. Because, of course, the other thing is you've got control still. When you're accelerating, you can accelerate in corners and get round bends and all sorts on power. When you hit brakes, your only course of action is to go in a straight line. So, you can try and fight going, get the weight over and try and fight the bike trying to stand up. But yeah, I've got time to do that in an emergency. It'll just go straight. So, brakes is really not the best course of action in an emergency in the scenario that we're talking about, of course.
Yeah.
Carry on the manoeuvre and try and, scrape it in a bit tighter, whatever it is you need to do, and stay on the power. Hitting brakes, it just leaves you with one option, that's just going straight ahead. So look ahead. No, well, don't look where you want to go. Let's not go there. Jesus. Right. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else wants to pick up on bends for tonight and overtaking?
No.
Okay. Tumbleweed. Righty. All right. Let me just scrub off a few things from the Q&A then. I know filtering can get involved, so I think we'll park that for another. Sorry for people that tune in for filtering, but it is already gone past our hour slot, so I will slot that in very soon on filtering also. But I thought overtaking is something that everybody does pretty much, and so it's worthwhile getting covered off straight away. So let's go to Gazatron quickly, and he says, can you discuss the common misconception of entering hash markings? You always see it in comments, people saying you should treat hash markings as brick walls. I've not heard that, so does anyone want to expand on what Gazatron's saying there? Hash markings, brick walls?
I'm assuming he means hash marking between the two sides of traffic where you've got diagonal.
Like the no-go zone?
Well, it's not a no-go zone, is it?
No, but a lot of people
it can be, depending on the edge of it.
Yeah, it's solid white line it is, but if it's a hash
if it's hashed.
you can enter it, yeah.
You should never overtake on a white line anyway, you'd be mad, but the hash things you can overtake.
Yeah, you have to just bear in mind, of course, that the gravel and crap that's there, you won't have as much grip.
Yeah.
You know, if you consider it. So all that scenario stuff builds in, and that's what I mean. Everything gets really complicated.
I think one weird thing with the hash lines when they've got broken lines either side is you see people using that as a lane. So if you've got, let's say, there's a road around here that's got 2 lanes either way, and they've separated them with an area that's probably about 3 feet wide with hash markings in, and you see people using it as a lane and just riding straight down the middle of it because there's cars coming the other way. And when
Oh, he's frozen again.
riding, when there aren't cars coming the other way, just cross the thing. Just go into the oncoming lane.
Yeah.
It's far safer than sitting where all the junk is. You know, get into that lane and then come back when you need to, if you don't want to just stay in the traffic.
Yeah. And I've just picked up something. Thanks, Richard. I just saw something from Headcat High, which is really important, and I don't think we really talked about it. Surprisingly, this is the trouble when you know everything. Well, when you've got all that experience. I'm not saying you know everything, but when you've got that experience, it's hard to remember the things that we should have said that we haven't really said. But Richard kind of picked up at it right at the very beginning. I'm just going to screen share it for a second, because Headcat Harley says, pass the vehicle wide. I see too many riders nearly take the door handles off during an overtake.
Yep.
Absolutely. If there's nothing coming, let's just change this slide slightly. Don't overtake here. Overtake here. Give yourself plenty of room for it, because this idiot in the car could do anything. Who knows, you know?
Well, he might avoid a brick in the road, mightn't he?
He might, yeah. He might do. He might try and call you a wanker as you overtake. You never know what could happen. But the thing is, use all of it. If it's clear, use the whole road. There's no law that says you can only use so much of this lane. Use it all.
You paid for both sides, haven't you? So
Exactly. We paid for all of the tarmac. So
And if it's not clear, don't overtake.
no. Yeah. But yeah, think about it. It's quite straightforward, really. Why sit here on an overtake when you can be out here?
bouncing over the cat's eyes.
Well, yeah, exactly. You don't want to be there, do you? unless you like the bumps, of course. But anyway, yeah, no. Get as far a distance as you can. And absolutely, Headcat High is a good point, well made. And I don't think we actually mentioned it. So, yeah, absolutely. Good job, sir. Okay, let's have a look. Oh yeah, I pick up on this one. Jasuto, he says, forgot to mention, don't try to overtake an articulated truck on a right-hander. Indeed, on a bike or car, give them plenty of space, usually on roundabouts. Best to keep back, yeah. Obviously, most people have seen large articulated lorries with a big trailer. When they go around a roundabout, the truck part of the trailer, or truck part of the whole unit, goes round in their lane. The trailer goes into your lane. So it's probably not a good idea to sit on the inside of those when they're going around corners. Absolutely.
You do see people getting shocked at articulated lorries turning right in the left-hand lane.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be shocked at that, because they can't get round from the right-hand lane.
Exactly, it's impossible. But yeah, and I've seen a car get squashed by who tried to undercut a lorry on a roundabout before. So yeah.
To be honest, in that situation, just to cover that one, overtaking anything on a roundabout is probably a bad idea.
Yes.
Because people straight line roundabouts.
All the time. Or change their mind about which exit they want.
Now, on that kind of leads into something that 08 Rider said, because I straight line roundabouts all the time. Well, he's actually talking about, was it 08 Ride? Somebody said about 08 Ride, it's at the top on my screen. For bends, you would have to take account of camber.
Yeah.
And also you might have a driver who's doing the advanced lines, basically. If he is, then with you behind him, he's not doing the advanced lines properly. But yeah, the advanced line says straight line corners. If it's clear, if there's nothing behind you, straight line corners, straight line roundabouts, because it's the safest route through. If there's diesel, you've not got a bike over.
Yeah.
You know, so you especially if it's wet. But they're not doing it properly. But of course, you can't rely on people doing it properly.
No. I mean, that whole straight line thing is obviously it's the best way to be. And just to explain what Richard was on about getting the bike over, if you're leaning obviously there's more sideways force on the road, so if it's slippery, you've got more chance of coming off. So straight line eliminates that problem. But you can only do that if there's not other road users to consider, of course. You can't just cut every corner like you're on a racetrack. You know, you have to be considerate of others. But keeping the bike upright in slippery corners is the best place to be.
And this is why when you are doing an overtake in a right-hand bend, you want to be doing it out of the bend, not into the bend.
Yes. Yeah, because you'll get to the pinch point at the apex of the bend where that's where it could all go horribly wrong.
And hopefully the car's past that point, so there's no reason for him to start straight lining anything because he's already round the bend, and you're just using the advantage of acceleration to get past.
Yeah. Because bikes are faster than cars on acceleration. Get that, cages. It's true.
It is.
They still try, don't they, at the old traffic lights? It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think that was a very good point there, 08 Ride. And I think there, if we just take one from Skiggy Cruisers, and I think we've covered everybody, and we will end it there with any wise words that we want to add from the rest of the panel before we go off air, because it's nearly 20 minutes past our hour. Okay, so Skeggy Cruiser says, I'm going to take his more useful comment here, with reference to Gazatron's comment, the hash markings around here and on most videos I see are covered with small bits of glass, as that's where the police sweep the headlights, etc. after an accident. Yeah, I always wondered where that glass come from. I didn't realise it was the police sweeping it there. But yeah.
You got the other thing as well, of course, that anywhere in the lanes has got vehicles going over it. So if something's been left in a lane, it's liable to get flicked about by a tyre. So the only time it's ever going to come to a stop is either off the road or in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I don't like going into those areas where most vehicles don't normally go. It is like the Bermuda Triangle. You never know what you're going to find, and normally it's a puncher.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. So I'm gonna wrap it up there. I would love to carry on, but you know I have to try and stick to the rules. So what I will do is I promise that we'll do filtering I'll do filtering after the wet riding next week. Okay, I don't like to leave things outstanding, but it has run over tonight. So we'll do filtering after that, and I'll try and hedge in some other stuff into the one for filtering after the riding in the wet and pillions next week. Okay, promise. Okay, so without any further ado, let's go through the panel then, and I just would like them to say any other comments that they would like to finally depart with on this, and then to say goodbye, please. That'd be awesome. And I will start with, let's start with Keith.
Good night, everybody. Just ride safe, be careful out there, and don't take unnecessary risks.
Excellent. Wise words, sir, indeed. Brilliant. Let's go to Suffolk Andy.
Well, the only thing I can say really is make sure that you know what you're doing. Make sure that everything you do, you're positive about. Don't take any risks whatsoever. Don't try and anything that seems impossible, because that will land up bad for you. And just ride safe, like Keith just said. But one other thing I'd like to say, a Kawasaki in the hand's worth 2 Hondas in a bush. Good night, everybody.
Let's move with blind corners. Cheers, Andy. Yeah, nice one. Right, I'll go to Catherine. Over to you, Catherine.
Bye, guys. Yeah, I've always been taught if you can't see round a bend, you don't know what could be round the bend. So just take it easy going round bends, basically. Drive around the bend.
Indeed. Nice one, Catherine. And let's finally then go to Richard.
I mean, overtaking is the most dangerous thing you can do on a bike. So it's all about the observation, making sure that you can make the overtake safely, that you can get back in safely, and that you've got a backup plan in case something goes wrong that you didn't expect. Bye.
Brilliant. Cheers, Richard. And that just leaves me to say a big thanks to the panel for coming along tonight. I really do appreciate their input into this. It does make it all good for the common good of bikers, I hope. And I hope you found that interesting and useful in some way as the viewer. And of course, the viewers can get involved. So if you would like to, of course, Mr. B at braindump.tv is the email address to send a request, and we'll sort it out from there. So yeah,
it'd be interesting to get an help later on, wouldn't it?
I would love to get some learner riders on, Richard. I really would, and anyone that's thinking about riding, even honestly, anyone, because it's the brotherhood of riders here, and even if you ride a scooter, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. I would like to have some new riders that would like to ask those questions that us seasoned riders don't ask, because we kind of just know it. And I think it's really important to get those questions that you think, well, why did you ask that? Oh, yeah, because obviously you don't know. And that's what we want, and that's what I would like to have. So if you're a new rider and you want to get on these hangouts, you will get a VIP seat. Trust me. Okay, so please do. If you think about riding or already riding on L plates and you'd like some advice or just to ask some questions to us old gits, please feel free to join, and I'm more than welcome. Right, okay. So that'll do for now then. Many thanks for all the questions in Q&A from all the viewers as well, so I really appreciate that. Sorry I can't go through all of them, it's like tight deadline and everything else, but I think I've covered everybody that had some input, and I really appreciate it. So thanks for watching. See you next week. Next week it's going to be riding in the wet and carrying pillions. Okay, so hopefully that'll be interesting. And like I say, sorry about the filtering. We will cover that the week after, and we'll chuck some other stuff in there that everyone else has suggested as well, that we should be able to cover off in a short space of time. Okay, let's end it there then. Many thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to ride safe, ride invisible. Good night, ride safe.
Night, everybody.